My name's Meghann. I'm an addict. Bear with me. I get really nervous before. Like I don't like to share in front of groups of people. Growing up, I was taught to stuff feelings and not say things, and paint a pretty face, put on a smile even though you don't feel good. Was kind of like the motto in our home, and we don't share things with people outside of our home. We don't talk to people. We keep everything in the home, and so. Coming to Narcotics Anonymous, that's like complete opposite, right? Like we come in here and share everything that's going on, and so I still get very nervous, but then as I begin to share, I start to feel some relief because like my sponsor tells me, you guys are my people, and I can come in here and I can share to you, and you're gonna love me through it. And I have to keep that in my mind. I just celebrated 5 years on the 4th of October, and if you had told me that I was going to get 5 years clean, I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't think that I was an addict when I got to Narcotics Anonymous. I had all the, everything out there that I did. Like it said, I was an addict, but I was in such denial. Like I really didn't think I was an addict. I'm from Carson City, Nevada. We just moved here last December. And so this is a new area for me too, and coming here and trying to get to know people has been a process, but like I'm so grateful that I took the suggestions and I kept coming. But yeah, like I said, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory so maybe y'all can relate to me a little bit. Like, growing up, I didn't come from like I had everything I needed when I was growing up. Like I had a mom that was there and she provided for us. And so like I share that because the disease of addiction, it doesn't discriminate. Like it doesn't give a fuck where you come from. And I do cuss. I'll keep coming back. I'm not perfect. So I'm just going to share that. And if it bothers you, write about it. Call your sponsor. I'm still a work in progress. So anyway, so growing up, like everything was good in my life. Like I managed to finish high school, but I partied my ass off. Like I can remember being 15 and taking my first drug. And I didn't think that it was a problem though, because like I still like functioned, I guess you could call it. But I was doing some pretty hardcore things in high school and still managing to graduate. And then I went off to college, but like, do we really call it college if you just go to party and you don't do any work? That was my story. And I through my 20s, I was kind of, I guess you'd call me a functioning addict if there is such a thing. Like I had a job. I paid my bills maybe on time. I maybe took care, and I had 2 kids during that time. And I have to mention, like I had both my kids clean, but I'll say abstinence instead of clean because I didn't have any recovery back then. I didn't know that there was a 12-step program called Narcotics Anonymous. But I mentioned that because, I had my first son and he was totally healthy. Everything was fine with him. But I had my second son, and that wasn't the case. My second son, I found out at 30 weeks along that he had a severe heart problem. And if he survived, were the words that the doctor used, if he survives, he'll need a lot of care. And, so I had him, we went to Stanford Medical Center. That's like, they wrote the book as far as I'm concerned. That's the place to go, but that's where he was born. And he had all 3 open heart surgeries all before the age of 2. And every surgery went okay except that 3rd surgery. He went into tachycardia, and that's when your heart rate speeds up really fast, and his heart rate was 215 beats a minute. And in turn, he started seizing. And I can still remember that moment like it was yesterday. Like I'm standing there at the edge of his bed, and there's this light on him, and all these doctors and nurses are around him, and he's convulsing, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. And it's still very traumatic to me because it was the most helpless feeling I've ever had in my life. And like, let me side note, as soon as I had him, I went straight to numbing myself. Like I had stolen a pill crusher from the nurse's station at the hospital, but I'm not an addict. I still don't think I'm an addict. And I was numbing myself. And and Austin, he's okay. Like today he's 11, and like you would never know that he went through what he went through, but like what that put me through, because like I'm real self-centered, so I'll make that about me too. And with that, like we got to go home. Like he was in a coma for 2 months, and eventually, like by the grace of God, he woke up. And like he was like a newborn at 2 years old. We had to, we did all these things, and he's okay. Like he still like takes heart medicine today. We still monitor his heart because there's still a leak in his AV valve, which is your main one valve they can't do replacement on. But like our hearts are like this over here, and Austin's is flipped around, and it's on this side. it's like the plumbing's totally backwards inside. His liver and stomach are in the opposite spots. Like he's just a miracle, right? He's my special boy, right? And I mean, all my boys are special, but like God's really watching out for Austin is how I feel. But like we got to come home and he was okay, but I was not okay. My disease took off as soon as I got home. Like my brother was the dope man back then, and I said, "What do you got?" And he said, "You don't want what I got. It's too hard for you." I said, "I don't care. Give me what you got." And I turned on to a much harder drug, and I was out ripping and running for the next 4 years. You know, in that time, I had a mom who enabled me. At the time, I thought she was just doing me a favor. Like, my truth was like, yeah, get these kids out of my way. They're in my way. I'm just trying to use, and they're in my way. But I could never say that out loud until I got to Narcotics Anonymous, and I heard another person say that. I hear other people say things, and for whatever reason, it makes it okay for me to say it out loud because I realize that I'm not alone in those feelings. And so the truth is, she was enabling me. She told me, I don't want you to catch a CPS case. You guys call it DCF, we call it CPS back home. I don't want you to catch a case, so let me, if it gets really bad, let me take your kids. And I was like, you can take them today. Like, here you go. And so she took them, and so I never had a CPS case, right? But I got, my disease got worse, and I started catching cases and like doing what we do when we're out there. You know, somehow I was always able to bail out of jail. I don't know how, but I was. But there was this one time that I finally couldn't bail out. Like I finally had to sit and I finally had to kick, and I was the sickest I've ever been in my life. And I share about that because I have to keep that memory at the forefront for me, because even with 5 years clean, my disease will talk to me and tell me, you have one more in you, you're smarter, you'll get away with it, you can do it. Like you'll be a successful heroin user this time. Like that's what my disease tells me. And it's bullshit. Like I know that's bullshit, but that's what my disease will tell me sometimes. And so I have to always remember what it was like that last time I kicked, and I was the sickest I've ever been. Like, they left me in booking for like 3 weeks, like giving me expired Gatorade. I didn't even know that shit expired until I went to jail. But it does, but it still tasted really good. And but I was so sick, and man, it took a long time for me to get a clear head again. And so I got put into a drug court program, and I had to do drug court. So I got here on a court card. Like I didn't come here because I decided I was ready to get clean. I came here because the courts told me I had to come here. And when my first intention when I got here was like, I'm just going to do what I have to do to get off paper. They offered me diversion, which means you don't have a felony. And I didn't want a felony because I have a brother who's serving 12 years in the Nevada State Prison right now, and I didn't want to wait. Like in Nevada, if you have a felony, you can't go see an inmate. And I didn't want to wait 12 years to see my little brother. He's one of us too. And so my goal was just to get that diversion, and then I was going to go back out and do what I was doing before, only I had learned a few things, so I was going to do it better. Like this is all the lies that my disease told me. And so, like, after I got out, they sent me to a 30-day rehab, and then my choices were I could go to, like, after that, I was still on paper, and I had all these obligations to the court, but I didn't have any, like, place, they didn't tell me where I had to live. So, like, my choices were the homeless shelter, or I could go to my brother's baby mama's house. Well, if you remember, my brother was the dope man, so you can imagine what that house was like. It was like the trap house. And I just knew that if I went to either one of those places, I was going to get high. I just knew I would. And so I found a transitional living. It was 4 months, and for the first time in a really long time, 4 months in transitional living didn't sound like a long time. It didn't sound like enough time. I went to transitional, and you know what, the transitional living, they taught me how to make my bed again. They taught me how to take a shower every day. They taught me how to cook a freaking meal instead of using the microwave. Like, they taught me all sorts of things, but most importantly, that's what introduced me to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I remember they brought meetings in there, and I was so attracted to how everybody was, like how you guys were. Like, everybody seemed really happy, like genuinely happy, and they weren't fucking high or drunk or anything. They weren't anything, and I didn't believe it at first, and I was a little skeptical. I thought some people were fake as fuck, and that's my truth. But like, I kept going to meetings. You know, I got a sponsor, and I started working steps. And, you know, I got into trouble again because, like, the behaviors, they don't change. Like, just because we put the drugs down doesn't mean that we become perfect people. And, you know, there was a girl, I had made some friends in that recovery home. I made my best friend, Melissa, she passed away, but I made a couple of friends there. And they both went back out. And like, like a little backstory in that too is when I was out using, I used to falsify drug tests. And I'm not saying this to brag or boast, but like I got away with it for a little while until I didn't. And so these girls knew that, and one of the girls asked me if I would pee for her. And I was like, yeah, I'll do you a solid, no problem. Like, these are the addict thoughts, right? And so I did, and she got caught, and she fucking told on me. And at first I was like, that bitch, like, she told on me. But like, let me look at my part in that. Like, if I had been listening to what y'all were telling me in these rooms, is we don't go around people who are loaded. And so like, had I not been, going over there to give my pee, had I not been doing all of those things, I wouldn't have landed my ass back in jail. And I had to go back to jail clean. And I don't know if anyone's ever been to jail clean, but I never did that before. Usually I could just go in there and like take a nap, right? And like, I couldn't do that this time. Like, I had to be awake, and I just was remembering like the meetings and remembering like starting my steps, and I was so sick. I was so sick and disgusted with myself. And like, I allow myself some grace with that today, right? Because I'm an addict, and like I shared, like the behaviors, they don't change right away. And so I almost went to prison over some pee. They kicked me out of drug court, and they were going to send me to prison. And my sentencing judge, like he saw, I don't know, like he said it out loud in the courtroom. He said, I haven't seen you. I was 10 months clean when this happened. He said, I haven't seen you in 10 months. And in the 10 months, you've done everything we've asked. And so what you've done is significant enough for me I have to see you today, because it's like a morals and ethics thing. Like, you just don't do that. He said, but I'm going to give you another chance. And he gave me another chance, and I got out of jail. I didn't go to prison. But I still had a 1 to 3 hanging over my head. And so I went right back in, and I jumped into this program full force. I got a service position, and I started working my steps again. About 2 months after that, after I got out, my friend Melissa that I mentioned, she was the other friend that I made. She was my first friend that I made when I got clean, and like, she taught me how to laugh again. Like, that kind of laugh that you're like belled over, almost peeing your pants, and like the harder you laugh, the lower you go. Like, it was like that kind of laugh, and like, she taught me that, and she would always tell me, winners stick with winners, Meghann. Winners stick with winners, and I remember her telling me that, but like, she went back out, and I got a call that she was in the hospital and that she had OD'd. And so being the friend that I am, I went to the hospital, and I walk in that room, and I see her, and she's hooked up to all these machines, and the doctor said she's dying. So if you want to say anything, you need to say it now. And so it's one thing to lose somebody to this disease. It's a whole different ballgame to literally watch them die in front of you. And so like, what that did, like, I left that hospital room. I called my counselor. He was a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and I told him what happened, and he said to me, kids, some of us have to die in order for some of us to stay clean. And no, that's not in the literature, but that's something that gets said around here. But like, he said that, and I got really mad. I was like, that's so fucked up. How could you say that, Richard? Like, you're an asshole. And I like hung up on him. I had to make an amends later. But like, it's true. Like, I the longer I've stayed here, like, what that did for me is it put a really healthy fear of ever sticking a needle in my arm again. It put a healthy fear. Like, I'm not saying that I haven't like thought about using, because that would be a lie. Like, of course I've thought about it. My disease has thought of all different ways I could do it. And that was back then. And so like, to this day, like, Melissa, I think of her almost every day. And I think she's a big part of why I was able to stay here and stay clean. That's when my perspective changed. I no longer wanted to just, get the courts off my back, and like, I was serious about this program. I wanted to stay clean. My life started coming together. My kids at this time, their dad had them, because as soon as I went to jail, he went and he got custody of them, and he told me, he's like, Meghann, like, I don't want to raise these kids. Like, I want to share them with you, because he's one of us. He's self-centered too. He likes his time. and he's like, I want to share them with you. Like, I don't want them full-time. Just get your shit together, and we'll raise these kids. And so, I was able to go to the law library. Like, in Nevada, they have like lawyer in the library on Tuesdays, and you can go and you can talk to a lawyer for free. And because he had a lawyer, and so I felt like I needed some sort of legal advice, and so I did. I went to the law library. I talked to a lawyer. I filed the paperwork, and the members of Narcotics Anonymous showed up with me and went to court with me and helped me get my kids back. And so I have my kids. I have full custody of them today. And I'm so grateful for that. And the reason I have full custody, I mentioned their dad is one of us. And, he's out there right now. He was MIA for about 2 years, and then he popped back up about a month ago, and he called the boys. And I knew he was on the phone because I saw my son come downstairs with a panic on his face because he just couldn't believe who was on the other end of the phone. But like what this program has taught me is like I don't talk bad about their dad to them. I tell my kids, love your dad. He's just sick right now. You pray for your dad. Because like I understand, like I'm not angry, like I'm just not, through step work, I'm not angry at him today. Like we were together 11 years and we're both addicts, so you can imagine what went into that 11 years. I don't got to give you the details. It was all there, and we participated in it. And I say we because I'm not a victim in that relationship. Like I participated in that full 11 years I was with him. But like today, I'm not angry at him. Like I pray for him. Like he's an addict just like me. And like, there go I. Like, how can I sit back and hate on him and judge him? And I teach my kids that, like, I don't want them to grow up and be angry at their dad. Like they're going to have their feelings. And I understand that, and we can process that. Like I've got my oldest in counseling because I think he struggles with it the most. But, like I'm so grateful that I don't sit there and badmouth their dad to them. Like my parents did that to each other. Like they were so, like mostly my mom, she would badmouth my dad, and it just made me resent my mom when she did that. And so I don't want my boys to resent me, and I think that they find some peace in knowing that he's just sick. But hopefully one day he'll get a chance to come to these rooms and get better. We, like I said, we moved out here last December, and I just want to share about a little bit like how that's been for me. Like, when we said let's move to Florida, I was so excited, like hell yeah, I'm never going to be cold again because I'm always cold, and I was really, really excited to come out here, and then reality set in, and like I wasn't excited anymore. Like I missed my friends, I missed my family back home, I missed the Four Seasons. And so like, and when I got here, like I remember there was 2 women that just like, they just came to me, and one of them's here tonight and the other one's not here, but they got my number and they called me and they invited me places, and it got me out of myself, because like even though I got here and I did what was suggested and I got numbers, like I didn't use them, I didn't call. But I went to meetings, and and like I love this fellowship. Like I'm so grateful to be a part of today. But my truth, like I didn't feel that way at first. Like I looked at all the differences, and I mean all the differences, and instead of the similarities. And I sat back and I judged, and like really, like what's the root of that? Like I was looking at everyone else's program because I didn't want to look at my own program. That's the truth of that, and I know that today. And so like I'm in a much better place. Like I'm not sitting back here judging, I'm not hating, I'm not wishing I was back home. Like yeah, I miss my family back home. There's no place like where you get clean. There's just no place like where you get clean. But I'm so grateful that I'm here, and I'm grateful to be a part of these rooms. I'm in truck driving school right now. And oh man, like I never thought I'd drive a truck, but like it's fun. It's like I feel pretty badass up there in that big ass rig trying to drive it. But like it's a process. I've got a big old test to take this Thursday, and like perseverance is one of our spiritual principles. And so like I'm gonna do this. Like I can do this. Like I have to, like the self-talk to myself, like I have to do this. I want to do this. Like I get to do this. And so we'll see that 90-degree backing though, like I don't know. Well, we're gonna find out. So more will definitely be revealed. So but like I'm so grateful that I'm clean today. Like I'm so grateful. My brother that's in prison that I talked about serving 12 years, like we know when someone close to us, or even someone that we don't know, we know when someone's high, right? And like I can just tell from the phone calls, like I can hear it in his voice. And then he's, sometimes I send him food packages, and it went from ordering him meats and cheeses to honey rolls and a bunch of junk food. And I'm just like, you doing okay? Because like you got a sweet tooth now, and you don't sound very good. And so he finally he opened up to me this week, and he told me that he's struggling. And he told me that he needs help. And he told me that, I see, sister, how this program is working for you, and I want that. And so like what I've learned is like I could try to sit there and preach to him and tell him how to do this program and like how it worked and all this, but like really the only way that he's going to hear it or see it is by example. And you know, it's the same for my mom. She's one of us. She's coming up on, she's got 7 months clean right now. And like, that's a fucking miracle, because like there were times when she would go back and forth and I would get the resentments and I would get so mad. Like, why can't she just figure it out? How many times is she going to try to get clean? And then my husband said to me, well, how many times did you try to get clean? And I was like, oh, boom, back in my place. Like, let me be quiet. Like, stop judging her. And like, so now today, like, she's clean and she's a part of Narcotics Anonymous and she's doing this program. And like, but like, I still have to love, like, from afar, right? Like, I still, like, I have to protect myself, because like, I can't sit there. I can't tell her what to do. She has a God. I am not it. And she's got to do this program the way that her God sees fit for her to do this. And all I can do is be there on the side and encourage her and talk to her. And we have some of the best conversations today. We really do. You know, Narcotics Anonymous, the steps, like I want to talk about the steps. Like I have worked around the steps, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying like this is a step working program, and that's what we do here. And like I've worked around the steps and I'm doing it again because like, I like just because like, the first round of steps was all about the disease and the mess, but now I'm here and I'm trying to live clean in this world and not be a fucking asshole. So like, I need to work steps, and like, so I you know, I just finished an 8th step, and my sponsor wants me to wait till I see her to go over it, and I'm like, I really gotta wait, and she's like, it's not a race. And she's right, it's not a race. But like my fear is, and this is my truth, like my fear is like if I'm not writing or doing something for my recovery, like my head gets louder and louder. And so that's why I always try to stay like right in the moment, right? But that's easier said than done. It's so much easier said than done. There's all these components that go into my recovery to make it possible, and like meetings. And I haven't got to go to a lot of meetings because my kids play football, and like they're kicking ass and they're playing football, and it's so great. But it's almost over, so I'll get to come back to meetings, and like I'm excited about that. But you know what, meetings, step work, like being of service is important too. Like the feeling I get when I get to be of service, like it takes me out of myself, and it reminds me that like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and it's okay. Like, you know. Getting clean, like life doesn't get perfect by any means, but like I'm grateful that I have the tools today. Some days I fall short, but I'm grateful that I have a support system, and I can reach out to them and try to stay, like just try to stay in the solution. You know, I think I've talked long enough. I just want to thank you guys for like having me share. I'm grateful to everybody here. Like you guys, the Heartland area has really just made me feel so welcome, and I'm so grateful for that. You know, my kid, I have to share this and I'll be quiet. My kid came to a one of the events that we had. He had to do community service because that little shit doesn't know how to boost. But anyway, I'm sorry. That's okay. Never mind. Whatever. It's funny to me. It's not funny that he got in trouble, but it's funny that like I have to find humor in some of this shit. And so he had to do community service, and he came to one of our events, and like you guys welcomed him. And he told me at the end of the event, he said, Mom, everybody was so nice to me. Like, he has ADHD and he can be extra, like really extra. And he said, everybody was so nice to me. And like, I'm not used to that. I'm used to getting yelled at and like told like to stop, and nobody treated me that way. And he's like, I really appreciated that. Like, he told me that. And so like, I'm really grateful to you guys, to this area for making my kid feel welcome, because like, that's so important. Like, you know, my kids were with me in my disease, and like I'm really transparent with my kids. They know about this program because they saw me in my disease, and I need them to know that there's another side. My 11-year-old will ask me, Mom, how long do you need to go to those meetings? And I say, Austin, how long do you want me to be your mom? Like it's pretty, like it's pretty black and white. Like there's no gray area. Like, and he said, well, and I said, yeah, forever, right? And he says, yeah. I said, okay, so let me go. This is my medicine. This is what I need. And so he understands today. You know, if you're new, welcome. Like, you never have to use again if you don't want to. And I hope that I said something that helped you. And if not, there's another meeting tomorrow. My name's Meghann. I'm an addict.